yesterday I asked you to write down some questions and prepare some questions that you would be answering today.
What things can we recycle to other useful things?
Okay, that's a good question.
How many tons of trash do people throw every year?
Yeah, good questions. Well done.
What will be some results when we measure our trash? What type of solid waste will be the most? What are some ways to reduce the amount of trash and solid waste? How can we dispose?
Perfect, Lucy. Thank you so much. Good job. Pete.
The three questions that I asked is what I try to answer is what is solid waste? Where is which country has the most solid waste and which country has the least solid waste? And the third question is how we could reduce the solid waste.
Cool. Pete, be careful when you do that project. If you take the idea of which country has the most solid waste, I was like, okay, well, which country has the most amount of people? So you need to look up solid waste per capita, okay, per capita. Per capita means like per head. So what it does is it looks at the average waste for one particular person in that country. If you're trying to find out, oh, which country has the most solid waste? Okay, well, the country with the most people probably has the most solid waste. Or which country has the least solid waste? Like, well, Iceland, there's only 300,000 people in the entire country. So they're probably not going to have as much solid waste as Vietnam, right? So just be careful when you're trying to get them.
I'll ask a question that is, what pollution do solid waste?
What pollution does solid waste?
How many metric tons of solid waste is thrown out of the world 1 year?
Okay.
And
that's pretty good. No, I'm happy with that.
The third question is, what can we do to throw out less solid waste?
Yeah, cool.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Elsa, Sky, Kent's muting me. I don't know. Anyway, Kent, questions, please.
My first question is, in Vietnam, how many kilogram of solid waste there are in one day? The next question is, what are some ways we can do for what are some ways we can help to using less solid waste?
Cool, that's fair.
My questions are, how can we reduce the amount of trash we make to the minimum number, and what are they doing to help stop pollution? And the third one is a bit crazy. Is the world really a plastic factory?
That's a very interesting question. Is the world really a plastic factory? Lily, if you can answer that within your project, that's a great like project itself. Never mind just a small part of your project. That's a really interesting point. I think, Lily, if I were you, I would look at the if you're going to try answer that, go back to the history of plastics. Go back to when plastics were actually created, because when plastics were created, they were thought to be amazing, most amazing thing in the world, because people thought it was like, oh, it's going to replace all this. It's so easy to use. You can use it for everything. There's like ads in America in the 1950s and 60s about the birth of plastic and how it's going to solve everyone's problems. So if you're going to look into that, go back to the history of plastics, on what people thought about plastics at the beginning. Okay, that's a really good way to start that question, because it's going to give you a lot of interesting insight into how people thought about plastics and the reason plastics became so big so fast, because they're only around for about 50, 60 years, right? So in 50, 60 years, we've now created more plastic than we've created anything else. So it's a really, that's a really, really interesting question. I'll be interested to see where you go with that. Any questions, please?
What is solid waste and what are the impacts of solid waste? We dispose solid amount of waste per year in Vietnam.
How are solid waste harmful to the environment? And how does Vietnam dispose solid waste? And what can we do to produce less waste?
Cool. Good job, Minerva.
How do the government in Vietnam dispose of solid waste? How much trash do I make each day? Which part of Vietnam produces most waste each year?
Cool. Good job, Monkey.
First, I answer about solid waste. What types of solid waste are hazardous, and how can we dispose of solid waste safely?
Cool. Good job. Yes, Ming Cho, waiting for your answers, please.
We recycle plastic into something else. What is solid waste and which solid waste is toxic?
Okay, fair enough. Razor, thank you. Pizza.
I do the part of the chart of the project. Miss A did the question part.
I asked you to write down questions that you would answer.
I think we come up a team that one.
I did not ask you to do it. I didn't ask you to do it as a team. I asked you to do it on your own. Again, I told you this on Monday. I told you this on Tuesday when I looked at all of your plans, that you all need to be answering questions on your own. Not one person just doing research and answering questions. Everyone has to answer their own questions. Bill, what questions will you answer? No, your name is not Bill.
Hello.
Hi. What questions did you write down that you're going to answer?
How many kilograms of trash at my house had thrown away? What's the number of types of trash that I throw?
You throw?
Yeah.
Are you throwing trash?
I throw to garbage.
Okay.
My first question is, how can we reduce the impact and stop solid waste without harming the wildlife?
Mhm.
How can we reduce the negative impact of solid waste, and what are some ways that we can improve the solid waste?
Oh, improve solid waste.
I mean,
Make it prettier.
stop it from being too many.
Okay. Reduce the amount of solid waste. Scott.
My questions are, how many tons of trash do people throw out in a week? How many animals die or get injured each year because of solid waste that people throw out? How can we reduce the amount of waste we use?
Yeah, second question is a really nice question. Good job. Well done. That's a really, really good question. Elsa.
What are the disadvantages of solid waste? How can we make solid waste less harmful, and what is the effect of solid waste on the environment?
Yeah, cool. Very good. So,
What is solid waste? What some kind of waste and how much plastic is in the ocean?
Okay. Interesting question. Very interesting question. I'm just trying to actually get you a picture. There's a picture from space of the floating trash island. So there's a trash island in the Pacific Ocean, which is the size of France, just floating around, doing nothing. It's literally just floating around. I think I showed you a picture of a boat going through it the other day. But there's been a petition to try and get it to become a new nation, make it a new country on its own. It's that big. They want to make a floating pile of trash its own country, floating in the Pacific. It's huge.
How can we reduce the amount of solid waste each year?
What are the effects? What are the harmful effects of solid waste, and what are and what are some disadvantages of solid waste?
Thank you. James, what everyone else has just done for the last 10 minutes, tell me the questions that they're going to answer. It does a no. Cool, thank you. Yes, Dino, you don't need to send me all the information about it. I know. You know, what questions are you going to answer with your project?
What people will do to the Great Pacific Garbage Patch? Why does trash get to the Great Pacific Garbage Patch?
Okay. Knowing you, right? I know that you're going to probably find that very, very interesting, that there's a giant patch of floating garbage in the Pacific. Please do me a favor. Do not jump down the rabbit hole and just start researching about the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. Please make sure we focus some attention onto Vietnam as well, okay? If you want to research it as much as you want, go for it, buddy. With your project, let's try keep it within Vietnam. Okay, so yeah, good stuff. Thank you all for your questions. Some of them were really good. Be sure that when you're doing your research, you are trying to answer those questions because they are related to your project. Now, I asked you also to create your table. Who made a table for the measurement of waste in their own home? Yeah, raise your hands. I want to see all those hands. Raise your hands in Zoom if you made a table. We've got 10 students. I have another 13 students in class that are not raising their hands. Everyone should be raising their hands. Everyone should be measuring. Minnie, I know I spoke to you. Don't worry. That's okay. Elsa, did you make a table? Did you start measuring? No. Okay. Well, you need to start doing it immediately. If other people in your group have started to measure, you need to start measuring immediately as well, because there's no point in you having all of your group having lots of information and you having no information. It doesn't make sense. So what I would ask you to do is fill it out today, and every day I'm going to ask you to send me a picture of it, or send me Hien a picture of it. That's the easiest way for us to make sure you guys are doing this, because it's very, very, very important. So what I'm going to do is, yeah, a picture of the table. I want to see your measurements increasing every single day. Now, the reason I want you to make sure you're measuring is I'm going to show you all how to create a graph. Okay, so a graph is a very easy way for you to show all of the measurements over your week and 2 weeks to see how your project is going, right? Now remember, the idea of this project is to find a way to try reduce waste, starting in your own home and your neighbors' homes, right?
Mr. Ryan.
Yes.
I just outside because my computer low battery.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. Now,
Miss Ryan.
Yes.
We measure 3 days.
No, you're gonna measure 2 weeks.
What?
2 weeks. 2 weeks. Week 1 is going to be just measuring, and then week 2 you're going to be able to apply your plan. So that's why I asked you to start measuring from yesterday, right? So from Wednesday to next Tuesday, I want you to measure every single day all the waste coming from your trash. What I'm going to ask you to do over the weekend is to develop a plan so that on Monday and Tuesday next week, you can finalize your plan. You can make your plan to go. Then that Wednesday, what we're going to do is implement your plan to try to see if we can reduce the waste. Now, one way that will help you when you are doing your presentation, talk about all of this, is to have information about measurements that you actually made. So let's take day 1, right? So say day 1 you had 10 kilograms of waste in total. Day 2 you had 7. Day 3 you had 9. Day 4 you had 10. And then you put in your plan and you go, okay, well now I've got 4 kilograms and 3 kilograms of plastic waste of day 1. Let's say 4 kilograms was plastic, then 3 and 4 and 6, and then we got it down to 2. Food waste we can say was, let's go 5 and 3 and 4 and 3, and then we had 1 and then 0.4, 0.2. Let's say metal was 0.2, 0.2, 0.2, 0.4. Then we had like 0.1, 0, 0, for example, okay? Now, what we can do then is we can take this information and we can make a graph or a chart. Now, even if you use Excel or Google Sheets, it's up to you. I can send you information about how to do this in Google Sheets, or I can send you information how to do it in Excel either. Very simply, what you do is you highlight the area, all of the information. It creates this chart a little bit easier, so I can just, what you see here is all of that information that we just put in here, okay? So we had the total, which is in blue, plastic is in red, food is in yellow, and then metal is in green. Reason for using a chart like this, let's change the name. Then we have this chart, and this chart gives you all of the information from your table. Rather than having to create a table and put the table in because they can get a little bit boring, you can create a chart. And from this, people can see is like, well, hold on, at this point here, it all dropped. Why did all this drop? Why did the total number drop? And your explanation would be is like, well, at this point on day 4, we actually implemented a strategy to try and remove the amount of waste in our own home. As you can see, it was very, very successful. So again, it just allows you to create a chart or a graph about the information that you are getting. So if you were to take all your measurements and you put them all together, so say we had 4 students who in total had 40 kilograms of waste, then we had 35, etc. You plug in your information, highlight everything, click on insert and chart, and it'll actually create a chart for you. Now, you don't have to use this one. You could use one like this, or you can use one like this, or you can use one like this. It looks kind of fun and wiggly. That's up to you, right? You can change the colors, you can change whatever you want. The point is that you are putting all of your information onto a chart, which makes everything a lot easier to read. It allows you to explain it and present it a lot easier, right? Rather than you saying, well, on day 1, we had this, this, this. Show the information on a graph, and things got a lot easier for everyone to read. Anyone have any questions about this? I understand how I would advise you to use it, right? Just because it makes it so much easier for you to explain, particularly when you're presenting this information. You have everything visual like this. Your classmates are going to probably pay attention, right? Remember, it's the same thing I said about using pictures in your presentations. Unfortunately, a lot of your classmates will not respond or will not pay attention unless there's something pretty on the screen. Put something pretty on the screen like a graph, people are probably going to pay attention to it. So, does anybody have any questions about how to make them? No one ever made them before? Cool. Well, like, hopefully you use it. When you're going to do it, if you have questions, please ask me and I'll give you a hand, okay? Right. I'm going to go through some information here today. It's about the different, different types of waste disposal. Now, on the first day, on Monday, I showed you all the video. And in the video, it showed different ways to get rid of waste. Who can tell me some ways to get rid of waste? Lily, can you think of a way to get rid of waste? If you do not know the answer, type it into Google, research it. Monkey, think of one?
Using landfills.
Landfills, yes. Lily, can you think of another one? We'll go through this information fast because you're going to do it all again. All of you will research this again. So this is just to give you a good idea. Ming Cho.
Can we recycle?
Yeah, recycling is definitely one as well. What's the name of the waste disposal that uses fire? Ends with I, rhymes with incinerator. Incinerators, okay? Incinerators, plasma diffusion. There's also recycling. So there's lots of ways to do it. I'm going to focus on 2 things in particular, okay? I'm going to talk about incinerators. So incinerators are factories. They're giant machines that take all of the waste, all of the trash, and they put it into a big fire and they get rid of it. All completely gone. Minnie, what do you think a positive thing for an incinerator?
It could like less trash, trash and like to dispose?
Yep, it disposes of quite a lot of trash quite quickly. Good job. Minerva, anything positive about incinerators that you can think of?
They can tell me why it's a mammal. Maybe it has fur. Maybe it has milk.
Maybe it does. I don't know, Connor.
Maybe it gives live birth.
Minerva, what's the positive thing about incinerators?
Get a second point. This is girls versus boys. So if the girls are going, boys do not draw. I can see the names. I know who is going.
I'm sorry, that's very distracting. Monkey, what do you think another positive thing of incinerators is?
Positive of incinerators is that it is a burns trash to ash that it doesn't we can get rid of trash.
Get rid of trash. Yeah. Okay. Fine. Fraser, what's a negative thing about incinerators? Well, I'm happy you think. Lisa, what's a negative thing about incinerators?
The negative thing about incinerators are they release toxic gases into the atmosphere that damage the atmosphere and the ozone layer and pollute the air. Yeah,
cool. That'll do a good job. Right. So incinerators are a really effective way, right? You can burn a lot of trash very, very quickly and they get rid of it. The problem is that they release harmful gases into the air. Like, as you can see, they actually cause pollution. So removing trash with an incinerator causes pollution, which is unfortunate. What about landfills? Landfills, they're large areas of land where trash is just put there. It's just left there. And it is then allowed to degrade naturally. What's some positive things about
They help to keep trash in a certain place.
Yeah, okay.
Negative or benefit?
Positive, please. There's actually quite a lot. Again, if you all research this, type in benefits of landfills, there's actually an article that's got 18 benefits and 18 cons. Quite interesting. Have a guess. Think outside the box. Don't just think about, oh, it gets rid of trash. Think about it logically.
They are an excellent source of energy.
Yeah, very good. Some research, good stuff. Rosie, look, I gotta keep going, all right? So look, they prevent water pollution, they create jobs, and they're super cheap, right? Super cheap to run a landfill. You just put waste somewhere. It doesn't cost that much money to put the waste there, okay? But negative effects, they can cause land pollution, and sometimes the trash just doesn't degrade. It doesn't disappear. There's not much you can do about it, right? Which is kind of unfortunate. So, what about Vietnam? How do you think Vietnam gets rid of most of its waste?
They throw it out landfills.
Yeah. Sorry, I asked P. Okay. Yes. Vietnam uses mostly landfills, unfortunately. So, research I did, Vietnam has 660 landfills currently in place for the entire country. And that in Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh, 95% of all waste goes to a landfill. Of all waste. I also found a lot of interesting stuff about the Vietnamese landfills. I found an article that explained that of the landfills, that close to 80% of them are unhygienic. Now, a landfill doesn't exactly seem like the most hygienic place, right? It's just somewhere where you throw a lot of trash. But at the same time, the waste that you are throwing into a landfill, you need to be careful. You need to be very particular about the waste that you actually put into a landfill, because if you think, well, hold on, I'm going to go put it on land. What's underneath land? Rocks. There's also water. If what you're putting into the land can then seep down through the land and go into the water, you can then actually pollute the water. So yes, landfills do prevent water pollution because they're not putting it directly into water, but it can still impact our drinking water as well. So this idea of a landfill being hygienic is based around the idea of making sure that the waste that we are throwing out is the right waste to be throwing into a landfill. You don't want to be throwing certain things into a landfill because it can actually be dangerous and still damaging. So it gets back to your questions initially about, Okay, so what is solid waste and how are we removing solid waste? Another question you should be asking is, are we putting the right solid waste? And this is why I asked you about the classification of your waste. Make sure that you understand the different categories. Are some things toxic? Are some things hazardous? Should they be going to a landfill? I would encourage you to make sure that when you do your project, you try to answer these questions, okay? Because this is what Vietnam is doing now. It's not going to change very quickly, right? So we need to be careful about what we're actually throwing out. Are we throwing out the right things? Yes, Peter, do you have a question?
No.
Okay, great. Okay, so just with that information, how do you think about that? How do you feel about that? And how do you feel that Vietnam mostly uses landfills for it?
But I can't hear very clear.
What do you think about that information that Vietnam uses mainly landfills for its waste?
It takes a lot of space for other things like other things.
Okay.
It takes up a lot of space.
Okay, takes up a lot of space. Mireille, what do you think about it?
I think that those numbers on landfills that contain trash of Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh.
Yeah, what do you think about them? Do you think they're too high? Do you think they're big numbers? Do you
There
think
are I think they are too high because Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh produces a lot of trash.
Yeah, very true. They are very high, right? Very, very high. Annie, what do you think about Vietnam using mainly landfills for its waste?
Too much.
Too much? Okay. Bill, what do you think about it?
I think it's too much too.
Okay, cool. Right. So I'm happy you think that way because the next thing I'm going to talk about is waste as energy. Now, we actually learned about this in our last unit. We talked about the concept of biofuel. Do you think waste is considered biofuel? If you think back to what we said, right? I remember I gave you a definition about what solid waste is. Solid waste is anything that is thrown away or discarded by animals or humans. So anything that a human is throwing away, technically that's biomass, right? So what we see you can do with biomass? James, what can we do with?
We burn it and then we use it as our energy.
Yeah.
To turn the turbine.
Exactly right. So we saw it before. We have what's called waste to energy plants. So similar to an incinerator, right? What we'll do is we'll take the waste and we'll take it to a biomass factory. And what we'll do is we will burn the waste. And we'll burn the waste so that it creates steam. And the steam then creates electricity. So who thinks this is a helpful solution? Laura, do you think burning trash to make electricity is a helpful solution?
It's not really good.
Why? Why is it not really good? Give me a definite
I mean,
answer.
it'll give pollution.
Yeah, burning it can cause pollution, which isn't good. That's true. And what do you think?
I think it's not good enough because burning trash or burning can make pollution, and it can make if that power can use, but it will make more pollution than using that power.
Okay, that's fair enough. Who thinks it is a good solution? Because everyone said no. Who thinks it is a good way to get rid of waste? No, you think it is? Tell me why.
Because if we just discard the waste in landfills, it first of all it wastes place to build other stuff, but if we can use waste to have energy in the energy crisis, it can serve us well to have more energy, not dependent on coal and gases.
Yeah, that's the argument, right? So remember we did all of this in the unit, right? We saw that, you know, fossil fuels, they're cheap, they're easy to use. There was quite a lot of them, but they're gonna run out, right? Using things like biomass or even trash, yeah, it's gonna help with the energy crisis. But at the same time, it comes with pros and cons. When you're doing your project, please remember to think about the pros and cons as well, okay? Think about the way Vietnam is getting rid of its waste at the moment, landfills. Think about incinerators. Think about waste to energy plants. Think about the pros and cons, the negatives and the positives of using these particular methods to dispose of waste. And what I want you to do is like think about, well, hold on, is one way better? Is one way worse? So let's try. So today we spoke about landfills, incinerators, we spoke about biomass. What do you think is the best way to dispose of waste? What's the best way?
I think it's
Bill, stop playing with the Rubik's Cube. I'm asking you why.
because it can burn the trash and it's all gone.
Okay, fine. And what do you think?
I think is turn the trash to the energy is the best way because it will make pollution, but we can have more energy to use, but except for only burning it.
Okay. Yeah, look, it's an interesting question, right? So this is what I want you to think about when you're doing your project too, is which is the best way to get rid of waste. So another one is recycling, right? Why is recycling so important? Minerva, why is recycling so important?
Alright, recycling is important because it can help us reuse plastic and not make a more pollution.
Yeah, that's fair. That's cool. Why do you think? What recycling do you do at home? Do you do any?
Me?
Yes, B. No, it's not. Listen, B. P. See?
I think it was P.
Okay, Lily. Cool. B. What do you think?
What?
What do you think? Why is recycling so important?
Because when we recycle, we don't have to throw like if we recycle plastic, we don't have to throw it out, so it will not be harmful for the environment.
Cool. Fair enough. Good job. Good answer. Okay. So we covered quite a lot today in terms of waste disposal and ways to do it. So now I want you to make sure that you're thinking about waste disposal for your own project. Okay. So think about the ways that Vietnam is currently using to get rid of waste. Think about, is it efficient? Think about, is there ways that you can make it better? Okay. For your homework, I'm going to send you a Google form. In the Google form, there is a short paragraph, and I want you to answer a question. So basically, it's called The Ship of Wastes. I want you to read this paragraph and answer this question. Write a paragraph about what you think should have been done with the waste. So think about all of the waste disposal that you learned today. I think, is there a way that could have been used in the past to dispose of the waste more effectively? Does anybody have any questions about anything we did today, about the graphs, about your tables, about your measurements?
No.
Thanks, Micho. All of you, make sure you are writing your measurements down. Make sure you are measuring your waste every day. Anyone who does not have a table, get it done today. What I would like to see is a picture every single day of your waste, right? Of the measurement of your waste. Make that clear?
Yes.
All right,
Yes.
cool. Right, get your homework done. Get your measurements
Bye
done.
bye.
Take pictures. Hey, stop. Think about waste disposal in Vietnam as well for your projects. Okay, goodbye everyone.
Bye bye. Bye bye.